Okay, so we are live. As always, welcome to those watching us live and welcome to those who are watching us on the replay. So I have the privilege today to welcome David Holland. David, I always say this, guests always introduce themselves because I'm either going to butcher it or just miss some of the highlights. But just for context, could you just introduce who you are, what you do, anything that you think you would love people to know about you?
Okay, thank you. And great to be here. So in order of importance, I guess. So I'm David Holland, husband to Lynn, the blonde one, people may know from LinkedIn, since 1979, or together since 1979. Dad to John and Rich, and granddad now to Alfie and Arthur over in the UK as well. And in my spare time, we run the family firm, which is Results Rules OK, business coaching and training with offices in Luxembourg and the UK. And I'm currently sat in what I call, but you know what I mean, in our studio in France, where we live in France, work in Luxembourg. So that's the brief intro.
Amazing. So full disclosure, you and I only actually really came into contact yesterday. We had an amazing conversation, and I asked you if you would do this live with me today, and you were 100% up for it. So first of all, I'm really grateful for you showing up.
Pleasure.
But I took so much from our conversation yesterday that my head is quite full of which directions to go. But I think what I found from our conversation is you're a very calm, very thoughtful person, but you also have this fun side to you as well. And that's quite rare in business and coaching. Everything seems quite, if I say serious, I don't mean it as in you're not serious or not very good at what you do, but you seem to have this human side and you bring that out. And I wondered, is that how you've always been, or you've just developed that over time through your businesses?
Actually, it's a good point. I think what I found is that, yeah, in answer to the question, yes, I attempt to use humor and engagement as a way of drawing out the best from people and doing what I do, but in events and workshops. And I had this question before. It was asked of me, why have I chosen this to be part of my, not my brand, but my style? And I know where it comes from. It comes from, I was, without going into all psychology, but I was an only child of two only children. So I didn't have a big family. And when I went to school, I can remember being at school and trying to blend in. I didn't have brothers or sisters to know how this thing works. And what I found was, if I could be not the clown, but I could be social and engaging and funny and all that sort of thing, it got me to be accepted by the group, and I became accepted into groups that I wasn't sort of part of. And I think that's followed through, and it has become a little bit of a brand. I think I've got to be careful with it, because, as we know, the British humor can be slightly caustic and sarcastic with certain people. I have to be careful with that. But it's something I've refined. I prefer to be energy and gentleness of touch and humor. I think it puts people at ease and hopefully draws the best out from them as well. So yeah, but it was a conscious thing, actually. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because this so one of the reasons I do these lives, it's really centered around business, but really about humans. Because I think we confuse those or keep those two things separate. We think business isn't about humans, but I actually think when you put humans first, business becomes a lot easier. And I've worked in the financial area for 20 plus years. And there's this stale persona that everything has to be 100% professional.
Yeah.
And, without lifting the lid on it, behind the scenes, it's rarely like that. But
Absolutely.
When I started this, I realized that actually people buy from people, and this isn't about selling anything to anyone, but actually being human, being yourself, is such an engaging way. And I think people that are in business for a longer term, it seems to me, and again, I'm only new to starting my own business, but it's about being human, about being realistic, and rather than this you win, I lose, vice versa thing, it's about working together and that human side. And I was like, yeah, why does business, we've got these messages that it has to be aggressive. Oh, we take over this company, whatever. I was like, no, it doesn't have to be. Why? Like, have I missold something? Have I been misled in some way? And then when I meet people like you, I'm like, wow, you're very inspiring, because I think that's the way business should be. You know, it can be fun. You know, I would imagine the stuff that you do touches on a lot of emotions, or, you know, things in people's past, etc., and can be quite tough conversations, but we're still human, and that connection will really help bring some of that out.
Absolutely. I think, you know, my dad, again, going back, I know it's like a psychology class, but he had his own businesses. We had shops. He had about half a dozen shops in and around Birmingham in the UK. And I worked in those shops from the age of about 5, you know, on Saturday mornings and things like that. And not full time, but I was in the shops and working. And what I learned was that he worked really hard, and it was a tough business. It was a hard business, but I think he endured it. He didn't enjoy it. It was tough and it was hard. He was never excited about it. I don't remember any enthusiasm for it. And I think he endured it. And I remember thinking back then, crikey, I wonder if my career is going to be like that, because I didn't want to go through my life and my career enduring what I did or do professionally. And I've learned over the time that, and the thing is, as you said, it's okay to have some fun. You know, business is tough enough. You know, it's all about sales and cash flow, and I get it, all that stuff you've got to get in place. But you may as well enjoy the ride, have a bit of fun with people that you like and that resonate with you, because otherwise, we don't want to endure, whether it's a career or a business. There's no way you should endure your career. You should enjoy it and thrive from it. And I think we can. I think people can. I know I do. I love what I do. If my clients are watching this, put the sound down, because I would do what I do if I didn't get paid for it, because I thrive on it. It's good for me, and hopefully good for other people. But we should be able to enjoy what we do, I think.
Yeah, and that's a topic that I try to. Part of, again, the reason that I'm doing this is because I think for a long time business was done a certain way, and I would like to get people to think that business is different. It can be done differently. And again, I think about my dad. He went to work every day. He left the house at 6, was back at 6. He worked really hard. Then he retired at 65. And I think he worked in 2 companies his whole life, was very loyal, did all of this. And in my career, I see the loyalty thing has changed. You know, people move careers, etc., but they often jump from one company to another, very much the same thing elsewhere, and there doesn't seem this enjoyment. And I'm starting to see a lot of people create their own companies. The barriers to entry are a lot lower to do things. You know, the fact that I'm even doing this is because it's, you know, all you need is a laptop and a microphone, some very cheap lighting.
And a windmill over your shoulder, of course. That's what
exactly. Yeah. And but what seems to happen is we've got this old way of doing things, and then there's this really not nice. I don't even know what this is yet. I think it's changed. It hasn't quite defined, but we're still stuck here. And a lot of the businesses, a lot of the people running these big companies, etc., often can't see that change, or sticking with the old ways. And the people inside are starting to say, no, I want more. I want to show up more as myself. I want different opportunities. I don't want to just fit into a box.
Absolutely.
And I think having these conversations, allowing people to understand there are different ways of doing things. It doesn't have to be that way. And so this comes back to really the point of, you know, we often think about business being stale. It's got to be that way, or, okay, I've got to be in the office from 9 to 5, you know, wherever you're based. But it doesn't need to be that way. Technology allows things differently. But, you know, if you have the old mindset, you won't see the benefits of doing that.
Absolutely.
And we talk about COVID a lot, but one of the impacts that I think, one of the positive impacts, is a lot of people went, oh, I can be master of my own time and energy. And I think this is something that people didn't really realize.
Absolutely.
And they still got stuff done. Some companies realized productivity went up, and it was like, oh, okay. And so they sensed that, and it was forced, because a lot of the company decisions were said, no remote working, etc.
Yeah.
They were forced to go that way.
Mhm.
People worried that everything would collapse, but the exact opposite happened.
Mhm.
And then
Yeah.
people tasted it and they felt this thing, and they could work in a way that was aligned to them rather than sitting in an office looking at their boss over their shoulder.
Ah,
Full disclosure, this is me. I was the one, flicking through the tabs, pretending to work, being
that's right, of
busy.
course. Yeah, that's right.
And I think all of this is moving, and through these conversations,
Mm.
I think hopefully I would like people to go, yeah, there is different ways. And it doesn't need to be this sweeping change that happens overnight, but
No.
just experiment. Because I think if you do, your company will be better. The
Mhm.
people inside it will feel better. They will come to work more as themselves. They'll maybe if I say take risks, it's not taking risks. It's
No,
actually, it's more showing up and saying, okay, look, I see this idea. Can we try it? And I think
absolutely.
rather than this hierarchical structure, it's more of an alignment and go, how do we collaborate to make this business better?
Yeah.
That's my vision. Whether it's right or wrong,
No,
I don't know.
I think it's interesting. I remember when I was having my career, I worked for other companies for a while, and I was really fortunate. I was like a troubleshooter, and with this group of industrial companies, if one was struggling, they'd drop me in, and I had to go and sort it out, run it, shut it, build it, whatever it's going to be. I did about 9 of them all over the UK, and one of the first ones I did. After about 3 months, the chairman came down to see me. He said, "I'll come down and have lunch." And he said, "How are you getting on?" I said, "Well, we're doing okay. Numbers are up, sales are up. We're getting it all sorted. All was good." He said, "How many hours a week are you working?" I said, "Well, I'm in at 6 with the early morning shift, and we're wrapping up at 6 at night with the twilight shift. And I go and cover the lads on Saturday morning for to make sure we're getting all the production out there." And he said to me, he said, "You're an idiot." He said, "If you can't run this business in 3 days a week, I'm going to fire you." And I thought, that's harsh. Because I thought I was doing the right thing. And he used to call me, I didn't speak French then. I don't speak it very well now, but he used to call me the enfant terrible, which I now know means the terrible child. I was the youngest manager he got. And he said, your problem, he said, he pointed at me, he said, you've got working class guilt. He said, you need to break out of it. And I went home and I spoke to Lynn. I said, I've been told I'm going to be fired if I don't do this thing in 3 days a week, not 5.5. And I've got working class guilt. And she said, well, probably you have. And I thought, oh, crikey. And I had. And I think it's something probably a lot of us carry. And what he meant was, we feel guilty if we're not clocking in at 9 and finishing at 5 and doing 5 days and all the things, showing up, participating, playing the game, going to meetings, trying to be, impressed and all this type of thing. And I think we have that working class guilt for many of us. And I think the people who are now running the companies, the Gen X's and the boomers, they've got it as well. They don't want to let the people that are coming through, the millennials and the next generations, because they never had it. They're saying no because they didn't have the opportunity themselves. So I think it's a real shame, because the young generation, it's always interesting looking at there's an article in the Times newspaper, and it said the youngsters of today are not motivated, lazy, don't want to work, don't want to, complete knocking down the young generation. I think it was dated in 1905 or something. So the view of the older generation to the new generation has never changed. The new generation is absolutely fine. They're brilliant. They're more gifted, educated, creative, innovative than ever maybe you and I were, if you like. But we've got to enable them to flourish into that. And Gen X and boomer structures with working class guilt won't cut it anymore. And so I think you're absolutely right. It has to change. And it'll come. There'll be a sort of revolution at some point.
Do you so my question around that is, do you think it will change when these people retire, etc., or it's a mind shift, or is it a combination of both? How do you see it potentially changing?
I think it's a combination of both. I think there's a lot of enlightened people out there. I mean, I'm a boomer, for goodness sake, so I've sort of got against the grain a little bit. There are some fabulous older people in business that are making these sweeping changes in a very positive way. I think it will change as they tend to retire and move on, and younger generations come through. I think it will be a little bit of that. It's not everybody that's over 45 or 50 has that mindset, but enough of them do to hold it back. And I see it, I hear it. They're not happy either. They're not happy in their job. They've endured their career, most of them. They're not really thriving on it. They're looking forward to retire and go and do something else. But I think it will take them to change. But pressure will come, because in order to attract and retain talent, even with all the AI that's going on, if you want to retain and attract good talent, you have to have an environment in which they can flourish and thrive themselves. So it'll become a self-fulfilling prophecy, I think.
Yeah, I had a conversation the other day with one of my neighbours, and she works for one of the big companies in Luxembourg.
Yeah.
And the head of this company is well known in the US, and they said that basically everyone in the company is waiting for that guy to retire for everything to change. And it's wow, like it's like, okay, so everyone knows in the company, yet the memo hasn't been sent up, and it's I think what makes me sad about this is that again, work can be fun, work can be enjoyable, but oftentimes so much gets in our way, we overcomplicate it, etc.
Yeah.
And one person can have a decision over so many people. And I've always said that we give so much of our time to work, and I'm fortunate enough to kind of define the hours that I work and want to work at the moment.
Sure.
But the impact for people, and it's not just the 9 to 5. You don't go home. There are a few people that just clock off in their mind, but you carry a lot of that home and stuff like that. And I've always found it sad that one person who is at the top maybe was very good in their day, made great decisions, but now isn't as relevant or has. And I'm going to touch on ego, and I don't. Please correct me if you think it's wrong. But they don't want to leave because there's a status or an ego attached to being at the top, and they don't want to get out of the way. But you can see that there's so many people impacted, and that journey takes a lot longer than it should, and there's a lot of people underneath it impacted, and I find that very sad.
Absolutely. I think I think it happens for all of us to a degree. I mean, we have to be careful with it, but our identity, my identity is built around what I do professionally. It just is, because I enjoy what I do. We've crafted the business into a way that it fits our style, lifestyle, personality. But the same with the CEOs and these senior people as well. And it's very difficult to change and let go if your whole identity is built around being the CEO or whatever it is. Very difficult to let go of that. It's almost like a little bit of a drug, and their identity is what has to change for it. Some do it. We did an event just on a side for another big organization in Luxembourg, doing a workshop, and we had to we couldn't get the HDMI cable out of the ground to plug into the laptop. We're trying to figure it out. And we're there early morning, and the guy walks past the office, and he looked in, he said, "Hi, how you doing?" I said, "Oh, good, we're here for the workshop." "Oh, great." He said, "Can I get you guys a cup of coffee or something?" "Well, that'd be great." Cup of coffee, turns up. He's in jeans and a t-shirt, jeans and a sweatshirt, and he came in. He's on his hands and knees underneath the table, getting the HDMI cable for us. Anyway, workshop kicks off, and this guy walks in again about half an hour later just to check in and see how everything's going. Turns out he's the CEO. And it's like, wow. And I thought that is, he didn't tell us who he was. There was no ego. There was nothing. And I thought, if I was ever going to work for a company again, which I probably won't anyway, I'm unemployable now, he's the guy. I want to work with him, for him, or alongside him, because I just sensed he got it. And other organizations, the CEO would never talk to a supplier low down the pecking order like we are, and that's a real shame. But he really impressed me. It was really good, and doesn't matter who it is, but he was really good, very impressive, and it showed up in the team as well, because they were just relaxed around him. The whole, the organization was very nicely done. It was gentle, hardworking, but the culture was really noticeable. I think that's where it comes from. So it's not exclusive, but it's not enough of them out there, I don't think.
Yeah, my girlfriend works for a company in Luxembourg, and she has the CEO is in the open floor, and if I say he's like one of everybody, there's nothing that differentiates him. There's not a corner office with a big badge, and everyone can approach him. He actually goes and talks to people, in the canteen area. And she says it's amazing just to have access to some. And the thing is, she says he's super smart, super clever, so well suited to that job. But also that being that sort of person, and having all the people around you, you have a bigger impact on people, because you put doors, they're barriers. People don't come in, and she says it's amazing. And again, people think that that's unprofessional, or it's but they get so much done, and there's this team spirit and this culture of doing this, and they're extending their office at the moment, and they create meeting rooms, but they're not creating too many walls. They necessarily have to separate for data, reasons or something like that.
Sure. Yeah.
But and it's such a refreshing way to see, because in my career, there's always the CEO. Oh yeah, you don't get to talk to him. No.
Yeah, it just comes in a separate entrance, there's a separate restroom, separate canteen. It's bizarre, isn't it? And it's very sort of 1980s, I think. That was what happened back in the 80s. But those times have changed, thank goodness. But maybe they haven't caught up with it yet in some organisations, because these people have carried it forwards for them.
Yeah. So I'd like to take a bit of a sort of a redirection to just talk about your career. So you said obviously there was a life before coaching, right?
Yeah.
And I think you said yesterday it was in transport at some point. Was it in transport?
Yeah, I've dabbled in quite a few things, but yeah, transport logistics. If I go through the sort of the checklist, I suppose, in some sort of order. I left school. I was in the top stream at school, and there's only 5 of us in the top stream at the school I was at. I was the highest performing boy. I was the only boy in the top stream, and I walked out of school with a grand total of four GCSEs at grade C. That was it. That was the top. That was the pinnacle. And I remember, I might have mentioned yesterday, I remember the careers advice that I had was you got 2 choices: is go down the pit, the coal mine, or go to the biscuit factory. And I thought, there's no way. I mean, bless them, full credit to people who did. Not for me. And I was lucky. I got an apprenticeship down in London. So I left school at 15, left home, went down to London, and I got an apprenticeship as an engineer within Royal Ordnance, as it was. So I was working with rockets and guns and rifles and things like that. So I was an engineer working within the weapons business for the British military. Did that for about 6-7 years during the Falklands. I know it's probably 4 people's time, 1982. Anyway, all that was going off. So I stayed I was an engineer by training, and then into logistics, transport, packaging. I ran Commodore Computers, the distribution warehouse in Milton Keynes, a logistics contract. And then I did that for about 7 or 8 years. And then, I might mention yesterday as well, is that I was fired. I was at a company down south. They've gone now, surprise, surprise. And I had to sign a set of accounts. And I knew the accounts were fraudulent. And it was to go to the bank for raising finance and capital. I said, I'm not signing it because I know it's dodgy. I'm not going to sign it. So the chairman said, if you don't sign them, I'm going to fire you. And he did. That was a bit of a shock. Anyway, so I sort of went home licking my wounds. And Lynn sent off, unbeknown to me, an advert I think it was in the Sunday Times or something, to a company in London. We were in Southampton at the time, in London, and I had an interview, and I ended up working in the dressmaking business. It was a company making bizarre ballroom gowns for professional amateur dancers. And it was, anyway, it went there for a while. Fabulous people, still great friends with the owners. They've sold and retired now. So logistics, packaging, transport, dressmaking. I went into aviation. I ran Heathrow, Gatwick and Stansted for a division of Aer Lingus. And then we had our own business, which was warehousing and transport. We sold that to the other shareholders and started this business 23 years ago. So yeah, been around a bit, and I'm only 35, so
I'm not good at maths, but something doesn't feel right. It's like those dodgy accounts that you had to sign off. It just feels not quite right.
Exactly.
I mean, that's quite a career even up to that date, right? That's was that through circumstance, or is that like who you are? You like to change and you're interested in other things. What would you associate that with?
I think it was, I'm going to say, by design. I always knew I wanted to do my own thing. I think run my own company, family firm. Having come from a family farm with dad and everything like that, I wanted to do something myself. I treated it as my business apprenticeship, right from the apprenticeship. So any opportunity that came along to learn and grow and develop and do something different, I just grabbed it, and I didn't know what I was doing. There's no plan for it, but in hindsight, all those different experiences of, from dresses to guns to whatever, enabled me to do what I do now, because I can sort of join the dots and bring different stories and ideas together. But no, it's by design. I've always been open to opportunity, wanting to move and grow and build and develop and take the risk, if you like. And that showed up. After we started this business, we took it over to the USA for a few years. We're based out of Las Vegas for a while. And then we came back over here 15 years ago. So and we're not done yet. Anything can happen. But no, we had that sort of pattern of learning, growing, being interested to learn and find out about other businesses and industries and people. And so now I can, I'm qualified I can straighten the gun barrel. I'm qualified to do that. And I can make you a rather nice skirt as well if you want one. I'm trained to do that.
Many hats.
Sweet, you never know.
But the transition into coaching, how did that come about? So I think I'm on LinkedIn a lot trying to connect with people, and
Sure.
It seems flooded with coaching. It's just,
Yes.
I often find that, someone left their job or wants to leave their job and they go, I'll be a coach. And
Yep.
I think this is quite scary, because if you're going to coach someone, you have influence over them, etc. And
Absolutely.
I've said this before, I'm divorced. Because I'm divorced does not make me someone that can help you if you're going through divorce. And I think a lot of people just do a certification for coaching or whatever it is, and then feel that they're okay to coach. And people have said to me, did I want to be a coach? And I've always resisted it. I've never, it's never quite aligned with me, because I don't want to do it. I don't want to sign up to a framework. There's something internal doesn't fit with me. So I find it quite scary. People can have influence over other people, especially if people are going to coaches. They're often in a moment where they're, if I say vulnerable, there's a lot going on, and they need some direction. Maybe they're a bit lost, and that can be very damaging longer term. And I think, you can have a certificate, but it doesn't make you a coach necessarily. So I know I've gone around the houses on that question, but you moving from all of those previous jobs into coaching, what was it? Was it something you thought? What was the journey and the decisions behind it?
We started the business 23 years ago in principle. That's when we sold off, we got out of the transport business. Coaching didn't exist back then. It wasn't a thing. Nobody knew what the heck it was. What happened was, with the transport company we had, it was okay, but we didn't enjoy it. It was a hard work, low margins. It wasn't great. So we sat down. Lynn and I just sat down one weekend over a glass of wine, as you do, and we knew what we didn't enjoy about the business, but we didn't know what we wanted. We didn't know what we were shooting for. We didn't know what the future looked like. And we went to a party. We lived in a cul-de-sac up in Newport in Shropshire. Went to a party. It was somebody's 40th birthday. I was about 38, 39 at the time. And went to this party, and somebody said to me, the woman, I'd never met her, I had no idea who she was, and she's all walks over, as you do at a party with them, a glass of champagne. You're hi, I'm whatever. She said, oh, what does the second half look like for you? I said, what do you mean the second half? She said, well, you're probably around about 40. I think I'm 38, thanks for it. But anyway, you're about 40. It was her 40th birthday. What's the second half look like? And I had no idea. I had no clue. And it bugged me, because she was right. It was sort of second half, if you like. So Lynn and I went out and we wrote down, literally on a piece of pad and paper, what do we want? And we'd never done that before. We wanted to, do something we enjoyed, work with people we liked, travel the world. We want to live in France. That was always the dream, living in France, work on our own terms, add value, all this sort of thing, all the way through. And then about 3 weeks later, maybe a month later, I'm in the office, and the office we had was in the shadow of the Aston Villa football ground in Witton in Birmingham. So it was a rather lovely place. There's giraffe and there's wildebeest wandering around. It's stunning, as you can imagine. And I'm sat there in the office, the transport office, and we had a fax machine, and this fax machine started churning out a fax. And this thing came through and it said, dear Mr. Holland, we've been following your career, blah, blah, blah. We think you make a great business coach, because as a business coach, And what they did, they listed down, they didn't know they'd done it, all the things you put on our wish list, they listed in that fax. It was like, work with people you like, travel the world, make money, blah, blah, blah. It was like, crikey. And I said to Lynn, this is spooky. This is very, very odd, spooky. And went home with that fax. I phoned the guy. I said, look, I'm coming for a meeting. And within about 3 months, we sold the business. I jumped in. We bought a franchise. So I bought a coaching franchise with a company called Action International, as they were, is now Action Coach. And we were one of the first ones in the UK. And we bought the franchise. I was fully trained and licensed, went to Australia, and we were trained in the US. And that's where we learned our craft. And I became a coach. And what I've found over the time is that, yes, my background certainly helps in terms of what I'm able to do as a coach. The training helps, my personality helps. But now I've actually moved away from, I don't really call myself a coach. I call myself a business co-pilot now, because I sit alongside my clients and help them and guide them and maybe grab the stick if we need to and all that sort of thing. I use coaching as a tool, but it's one of the toolkit that I would choose from. I can do a bit of coaching, bit of consulting. You can't see it on the video, I don't think, but I've got a baseball bat over here, and I hold my clients accountable as well. Let's get on with it. Bring pace to it. I can be a shoulder to cry on. I can all this sort of thing. Is that coaching? I'm not sure. Part of it is, but you're right. There's a lot of people out there. Some great people doing great work in the coaching space, but yeah, just because you've been fired 3 times in 6 months, made redundant and blah, 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 doesn't mean you should go into coaching. So, yes, it's a mixed bag out there, put it that way.
I love this co-pilot thing because, again, coaching can bring up all sorts of things in our mind. And again, to your point, there are some very good coaches out there, very, very good. And I'm not trying to say don't go to a coach, because I have a coach. I've also been through therapy, and we can touch on that because I think it's an important topic, but maybe one for another day.
Sure.
And I think if you find the right person and you can connect with them, and I stress that the right person, and that might take time, then it's super powerful, because oftentimes it isn't. Someone who can see you as a person rather than, sell you a framework or way of being, and can adjust. And I think that's great, because everyone's unique. That's how I see it. I know we might have characteristics that are similar, etc., but all our background, everything that led us up to this point, means that we're different. And someone that can see what you need when you need it, and that doesn't necessarily need. Sometimes a framework is what's needed, but most of the time it's to have a sounding board to talk about things.
That's it.
And one of the things, so as part of my outreach on LinkedIn, I ask people what things aren't really talked about a lot, and they say resilience in like leadership.
Okay.
Because I think it's a very lonely space, especially in sort of C-suite executives or whatever you want to call them.
Yeah.
And people don't talk about it. It's like this, just get on with it, and you can shoulder everything. And I've never been in an executive position, but I would imagine, it's very lonely. You feel that you've got to carry a lot of weight in many ways.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think just being able to talk about some of that stuff is like a huge jumping off point.
Yeah.
You don't need someone to tell you what to do. You might have already the answers. You just need an outlet. And that feels something that we don't really talk about. So I know you work with a lot of executives and C-suite people. I don't want to give any secrets away or anything. What sort of things are people coming to you with? What's the initial?
A lot of it tends to be, and you're right, because I work with people in sectors that I have no knowledge of a lot of the time, because I've got a broad experience. If somebody comes to me from, I don't know, a fund management company in Luxembourg or a bank or something, I have no idea what they do. I know they press buttons and dots move on the screen, that sort of thing. And I tell them that I will never try and advise and guide them in what they do technically and professionally. It's nothing to do with it. What I find is what they need, what they want is clarity of thought, because they get a lot of stuff coming through, and they also have a sounding board. This has happened. What do you think? How can I do this? How can I do that? So a sounding board. Sometimes it's just a case of I will sit there with somebody, and this happens quite regularly with business owners as well as executives. And I'll just go to them. I'll say, my first question is normally, talk to me about your week. Give me the highs and the lows. Give me the, give me the screenshot. Talk to me about your week. How are you doing? And sometimes that's all I ever say. And they just talk, and they go this and they do that, and they talk themselves in and out. And then at the end of it, they go, "Oh, that was great. So I feel better already because I know I can do this. I can do that. I can do that. Thanks, coach." And I've just been there to be the, I can just say, I can sort of do Scrabble or something, I never do. So really, I think it's a listening point. There is a mix of, what do you think about this? This has happened. What do you think? And I can then say, well, consider this, think about that, or whatever it is, and mindset stuff that comes with it. We have all the strategies and tactics, but they know this anyway. Somebody's got to the C space or running their own company. I don't need to tell them to, look at their the conversion rate in sales. They know this stuff. Yes, we can improve it, but they're bright people. They've got to the point they want to get to. And what they really need then is just a bit of, sometimes I suppose, almost like permission to go to the next level, to make the decision, to do the thing they've got to do, and take the risk. And it's just that. So a lot of it's listening, a bit of advising, a bit of guiding, a bit of nodding and supporting, a bit of chastising sometimes. If they come to me with they say they think they can't do this because of that, and that, well, I dispel that myth straight away for them. They're given the confidence to go forwards with it. But really, it's listening. I think coaching is 2/3 listening, really, and 1/3 talking, but just being there for them to, and they tell me all sorts of things. Obviously, it all stays with me. They tell me all sorts of things about their company, their boss, the good, the bad, and the ugly, about their business, their family, their in-laws, or whatever it is. And it's absolutely fine if it helps them rationalize what they're doing and get a bit of depressurization and get back on track. Then that's what it's all about. I may write a book one of the days, just change all the names. I just might write a book with some of the stories. That'd be a fun one. But I mean, it's listening, it's being there. And what I say to them all, this sort of final point, is the joy of what I do, I think, is I'm only allowed to do good. I'm only allowed, as a coach and a co-pilot, to progress people forwards. And that's my job. So they've got to be better off with me than without me. They've got to make more progress with me than without me. So that's what I'm allowed to do. I'm their cheerleader. I'm their chief fan club. I'll chastise them if I need to. I'll kick them if I think they need a kick. And I'll put my arm around them if they need that as well, literally. So it's a privilege to do what I do, but yeah, I'm only allowed to do good things, and that's probably the basis of and they know that's the basis of the relationship.
And how long typically do you work with people? Is it a long-term engagement? Because I think we live in a world where we want, the word hack is absolutely overused, and I think so. I've been on a self-discovery, self-improvement journey, and that sounds a bit much, but I'm very curious about myself, understanding what works, what doesn't, and trying to tweak things along the way. But you go on social media and it's like, oh yeah, do these 3 things and your life will be amazing. And it's like, no, like
if only, it'd be great, wouldn't it?
Like what I say to, I don't coach people, but I want people to understand it's the same as exercise. If I was really out of shape, I'm not going to get in shape within a week.
No, exactly.
The decision to get in shape is the decision.
Yeah.
But the rest of that is something that I need to weave into my life to continue to feel in shape and feel good. The same is for our minds. If it's been polluted, we think bad about ourselves or whatever, we're in an environment that doesn't suit us, whatever, we are our worst own critic. It takes, I know there's techniques like hypnosis that you can do certain things quickly, etc. But the reality is you need to have a look at that and unwind it. And oftentimes it's stuff behind the thing that you think is the thing that needs looking at. And that's not a 5-minute fix.
No. There's no such thing as a life hack, I don't think. Not really.
Yeah. So in terms of engagement, do you just see how it goes, or what's the?
Yeah, I mean, we sort of looked at this, and one of the things that we have to, there's sort of two sides to it. I don't want my customers, clients to be dependent upon me like a crutch. I don't want that, because they should be able to flourish by themselves. And what the arrangement that I have with anybody that we work with is we don't have a contract, we don't have a 6 month, 12 month, or anything like that. We work together month by month. And I just say, look, providing there's value in the relationship and you're progressing, then I'll stay around. If there isn't continued value in the relationship, then we can put it on pause, we can stop it and whatever, that's absolutely fine. Or maybe they sell the business or retire or whatever it is, then it stops. But the focus really is, are we making progress? Is the value in what we're doing? And I found the relationship changes. So in answer to your question, I have clients who've been with me for 12 years, 13 years. And we have a client over in Australia who we'll be in touch with regularly, 21 years in total. Now, the relationship changes. Of course it does. They're not dependent on me, but I can still, I hope, add value to the journey in helping them progress. And providing they go faster with me as the co-pilot than they would without me, then there's value there. And that's it. And I'm not a case of teach them new things all the time or whatever. It's just that consistent sounding board, regular conversations, bit of reassurance, bit of guidance, and this sort of thing. So yeah, for as long as it takes, really. So yeah, on average, I suppose, in answer to your question, I suppose the average, it's got to be about 4 or 5 years.
Oh, wow.
In the business space, yeah, on average. Some not so much, yeah, but in the executive space, it's different, because the HR departments want to know how long is it going to take, what's it going to cost, and they want it all broken down into bite-sized chunks, if you like. But that's slightly different. But that just extends on as we go if they needed to. But on average, yeah. But there's no contract. There's no. I don't want to. I always say to people, I don't want to tie you in by a contract. I want to tie you in by value. If you feel there's value, we keep on going. Then we keep on going, and that's it. That's where it goes, really. But not the dependency. I don't want to be dependent on me, and they're not. I work with very bright, intelligent, bright, ambitious people, and I contribute to them, but they're not dependent on me for it. That's the right term.
Yeah, I think that's such a super way, because I've seen, or I experienced, people where they kind of tie you in, and it becomes like this almost codependency thing. It's like no. Like, it's that's not a great relationship.
No, it has to be that. It has to be this relationship. It is a relationship of trust and value and fun. We do all sorts of workshops and bits and pieces. It's all good fun. And also, I think what part of it, just finally, is that we get the clients get together. We do regular mastermind calls. We get half a dozen people together from the UK and Germany and Luxembourg, whatever, and we talk about stuff, concepts and leadership and sales and things like that. And having access to sort of a peer group is quite useful for them as well, because, as you said, it's quite a lonely place to be. And just being able to get on a call and go, I've had a crap week and blah 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 blah, let off a bit of steam with other like-minded people, sort of validates what they're doing. So that's a little bit of the fun as well.
Nice. Is that I think so? The word community pops into my head when you say that, and I was thinking that's such a great idea, because again, it's lonely at the top, but oftentimes we have this idea, two people working for different banks, they can't talk to each other because they're competitors. Why? Like, again, I don't like I think we've been sold a lot of stories of competitiveness is great, and that's the way it should be. If you win, I lose, etc., etc. But actually putting those people together, and the fact that you're probably doing it from different industries and countries, obviously negates a lot of that.
Sure.
But why not? Because
absolutely,
if the people in the banks are friends, you go, I've got this problem with this thing, this new regulation or whatever. Go, have you got a solution? And I think,
why not?
Why not? You can help each other, but we see this. It's got to be some massive thing against each other.
Yeah, I think collaboration is the key, and I see it across industries, because somebody, I'm trying to think of an example. So we do quite a bit of work in the UK with people in the martial arts world. They are martial arts academy owners, and they may be on a call with somebody who's got a document shredding business. They're in the recycling game, if you like. So totally different, but 2/3 of the business is the same, because it's about customers and clients and time and cash flow, frustration and sales and marketing and people and team and leadership. At the bottom, it's different because one guy's on the mats kicking and punching people. The other guy has got a warehouse with a big shredding machine. But the rest of it is the same. It's the same thing. So they can absolutely collaborate with each other and support and help and guide. They never compete anyway, but that collaboration is there all the time. And it's amazing that people say to me, how can I work in different sectors? Well, because all sectors are the same. But apart from the very thin layer of the technical work they do, everything else, every business is the same, pretty much. There's not much that's unique out there.
It's interesting you say that, because in the banking world, they never really look left or right into other industries or sectors. Yeah. But there must be some. I've often felt that there must be some benefits of looking at a different industry. There must be things that they're doing in such a unique way, but we kind of get caught in these silos of these industries, and we don't. And that collaboration, you just go, yeah. So I worked in one of these banks, and they hired this guy who had worked in F1. Okay. And there was a big buzz around it. I think I don't know what the expectation was from him. And he was in London, and they was like, oh, okay, yeah, this guy's coming. And I was like, are we going to be a Formula One team? But what is it? And it was like, it was interesting to see. Unfortunately, I think he lasted for about a year, max 2. Yeah. And I would have loved to have had a conversation with him. I don't even know who it was. I don't know what position he held in F1 or anything like that. Yeah. But I was like, oh, okay, like, is it too hard to transition? And again, things like banking are very historic, and we have these old, dinosaur ways of doing things. And if, F1's sort of cutting technology and, shaving off like 0.1 of a second, and those things maybe aren't, aligned. But I thought it was a huge opportunity, but maybe it wasn't allowed to be brought in because the mindset from one or the other. And again, I have no context of why it didn't work. It might be that he got a better offer to go back. I don't know, but I think there is a huge missed opportunity from collaborating elsewhere. So I think it's fantastic that you have access to those people, and you're bringing them this value through, just that connection.
But also, and again, I learn from them as well. Everybody that I work with, genuinely, they're very bright, ambitious, and and they know what they're doing. They've got crystal clarity, and I learn from them. And I can sort of look at this tapestry of all the different people in the team, as I call them. And it's like, wow, this would work over here. Let's try that here, and let's plug it all in. That's part of the magic of it. When I went for when I switched, when Lynn sent off this job application for the dressmaking business, I didn't know she'd done it. So I get a phone call from this agency, and they said, oh, we've got an interview for you. It was in Mitcham in London, South London. So I found out who they were. Oh, crikey, what's this? Oh, Lynn said, yeah, I sent a thing off for you about a month ago. And I went up to this thing, and what it was an open day. So there's about 6 of us on this open day interview thing, team panel interview. And we're in this showroom full of dresses, Latin American ballroom, and there's me. And we went around all the applicants, and they said to each of them, what was the last project you worked on in your current role? And one was from the theatre West End. He was working on like Cats or something like that. There's a girl there from the Royal Ballet. There was somebody there from TV and costume working on movies and things like that. It's like, crikey. And they came to me. So what was the last project? The last project I was working on was the container that holds the spare periscope off the Trident nuclear submarine, because they have to ship them or they have to have these dotted all over the world because they keep on breaking them. And as I said this, they all looked at me and went,
you're in the wrong room.
The Men in Black thing, where Will Smith's doing his form in the room, and I was that guy. I was the Will Smith. They're thinking, who's this idiot? Anyway, and I had the day, drove home back in Southampton, and Lynn had a phone call while I was driving and said, can David come back tomorrow and see us? Which obviously meant going to progress. So I went back the day after, I think, and they said, we'd like to make the offer. And I said, my first question was, if you've got the right person, why me? And it was Peter, the guy we drove down to Austria to see them over the weekend a couple of weeks ago. Lovely, lovely guy, absolutely lovely guy, ex-European champion, the whole thing. And he said, because you don't think like we do. You think differently. We want you. We know about dresses. We know about style. We know about. You bring a different perspective to the business, and we want that. We want what you've got. You can make us better by bringing new ideas. And I think that goes to your point of looking across industries. Maybe the F1 guy could have transformed the bank, or vice versa. I don't think I transformed the business, but we certainly got some structure and performance and bits and pieces that may not have had before. But yeah, so I think looking outside the silo is critical. There's some brilliant people in different sectors can contribute. They spot things that we wouldn't see either. You know, why are you doing that? What's that for? What's this for? We don't see it because we don't see the wood for the trees. So I think looking broad, I think it's absolutely critical. Absolutely.
Yeah, this guy sounds he's very open-minded, right? Because a lot of people would see that as a risk. And
yes,
I said this the other day. Oftentimes, the risk is not doing the thing. Like we say, oh, it's risky to do it. Actually, the risk is you not doing it. And we think, and again, to go back to the competitive thing, you go, okay, well, what makes us stand out? Or how can you help us? And I think if you've got that inclusive mindset and openness to think, and again, I keep tying this to ego in my head, and please correct me. You're maybe a better position to, like, if you don't tie an ego to, okay, I'm the one that makes the decisions, you kind of more open and receptive to people's ideas. I think that's a blocker. So am I off base with ego? Would you say it's something else?
I think it is ego. I think it's fear as well. And control. We want to have control, with fear of letting go and fear of, because I think the danger is, if you're in the C space or running your own company, you have all the responsibility. Therefore, you take all the authority as well. Now, you need authority, but if the authority means you do it yourself, well, then the team is sort of sat around waiting and watching you do all the work, and you've got all the stress that goes with it. And I think one of the biggest challenges for people in senior positions is to let go, to stop doing everything, getting involved, micromanaging, whatever it is, build a team, build a structure, and then let it run. And if the people don't do it as well as you did it, or they don't do it perfectly, whatever, well, great, then that's fine, isn't it? It's got to be okay. We're not building satellites in most companies. We're transacting numbers on a screen, for goodness sake. There's no lives at risk. But letting go, I think it's a letting go thing. I think it is ego. I think it's control, and it's having we link responsibility with authority with doing the work, and it's not true. We have got responsibility. That's what they get paid for, but how we achieve the outcome can't be through doing it. It has to be through leadership and delegation and training and systems and support. So yeah, it is a bit of an ego thing perhaps as well.
Yeah, this so I in my previous role, it was the first time I was given total autonomy over my job.
Right.
It was amazing.
There you go.
Was just like, and I was like, and I know not everyone, we're all different. Some people want to be told what to do. They don't want to think, or etc.
Sure.
But man, it was very empowering. I was like, yeah. And do you know what? I produced. I really did. And
but you did, yeah.
and I did it under a lot less stress. And I was like, okay, why has this not happened to me before? And it was, and we think that again, the word control seeps into my mind, a letting go of control, but if you do that, amazing things can happen, because you think that we think our way is the right way, but if you go, okay, I'm going to let this go, and it takes practice, but amazing things can happen, because I think people can step up, people can bring new ideas, better ways of doing it, and you go, it's kind of win-win, I think.
Absolutely, it is. People have great ideas. They have fabulous ideas that the boss, if you like, don't know or don't see. But if they don't allow it to flourish through, they never get discovered anyway. I think that's what irritates people, because they do have creativity, innovation, ideas, and they want to contribute. They want to flourish. They want to make the place a better place. But if upstairs is not allowing it to happen, they get frustrated, and at some point they quit. Mentally they quit. They just stop it. They stop contributing. It doesn't go anywhere anyway, which is a real shame. Some very bright people out there working in these companies that are only doing, I would say, working at a third of their capacity, because they're doing the job, but they can do so much more, and they're not allowed to do it. and they just end up becoming one of these little robot doing their thing, and away they go. But most people have got much more capacity. Look at what they do at weekends. Look at what they do as hobbies. Look at what they do. I did an event yesterday, Jen, for a big company up in Luxembourg, and I went around and said, "What's your what do you do at weekend? What's your hobby? Tell me something about yourself." And one of the guys there, he's got, I think it was a dozen guitars. He's a professional guitarist. He's done recording, he's played in bands, he's done this, he's done that, he's got a studio. It's like, wow. Now he talks about guitars and music. He absolutely came to life. He was like, wow, this, and the organization he's in is very, very good, because he's enabled him to use that creativity in the business as well. So full credit to them. But you look at all the people in these organizations, they've all got gifts and hobbies and talents and things that they use at weekends, if you like. Why not use them in the business as well? Allow them the freedom to move with it.
Yeah, that point really is that we often like people to fit in boxes, and I've got this big monologue about job descriptions just being the worst thing in the world. But if you allow people to be more of who they are, and again, this is part of bringing this awareness to businesses, allow people to bring who they are. People are creative. They've been told not to. But we kind of shave off all these great things, and just so that people can fit into these boxes. Absolutely. For the benefit of who? Because the employee is not benefiting, and the business really is not benefiting. No, if you can create an environment where someone can come with ideas, be creative, or bring something, it may not look like the traditional way of doing something, but give it an experiment, give it time to see. And because when other people see that, they go, oh, okay. And it's not going to be like the Wild West, which I think people think that like, if there's no rules, absolutely, no, this is going to be terrible.
Yeah, hangings in the car park and that sort of thing doesn't happen. No, you're quite safe.
People will flourish. They will want to come. They will. I'm not saying they should put in more hours, but they'll be, okay, I'm just going to finish this little bit, or I can see it differently. I'd like to just bring this. It's so much. And I think this is what people are seeing. They have this resistance or frustration, and I see it in exactly like you've said. They become just these people that just kind of switch off when they come to work.
Yeah, they just go into silo mode and off they go. Don't blame them either. I would. I think just go do what you're told, tick your boxes, do your KPI sheet, do your TPS report. If you look at that from the movie, that's what they do. And it's a shame, because I'm convinced most people, they want to contribute more, they want to enjoy what they do, and they can have these ideas and work in different ways. And when organizations allow it to happen, you can see they flourish. They just do. They're different. It's interesting. I can get a sense, I'm sure you can as well, anybody watching this, when you go into a company, you can get a sense of the culture, the spirit, how they are with each other. And we pulled up to this company yesterday, and there's one of their vehicles coming out of the car park. We had to turn across them, so I stopped to let them come out, and they stopped, and she waved me across and smiled and waved and let us in. I thought, crikey, that's unusual. It's nice. Got into reception. The guy in reception, really helpful, very friendly, very engaging. Please sit down and blah, blah, blah. And when the exec we were working with came down to get us, he's dressed very casually, and he's walking out to get in the elevator to go up to like the 4th or 5th floor or something. And there's a lady there with a cleaning trolley, a mop and a broom and a cloth and this sort of thing. And she wants to get into lift at the same time. And he said, yeah, in. And he was talking to her, and I thought, there's something good here. Because some organizations wouldn't allow the cleaning lady or cleaning person, if you like, to be in the same building, same elevator as a senior exec. And if she was, they wouldn't talk to her. And if she was, they wouldn't get in with her. And we did. We had a great little chat, bit of a smile, bit of a laugh, and off she went back to her. I thought, wow, there's something different here. And you can taste it. It does make a difference. And there's no reason why any organization can't do that.
Yeah. That's the culture. I that's set at the top. And I talk to people about change before people, try to help change companies. And basically, if you're down here, it doesn't feel all the way. If you do it at the top, you feel down up there.
I think the signal is the audio is bouncing a bit. I'm not sure if it is your end as well, but I think that I'm not sure it's this end. You've
Yeah.
frozen on the screen. I can start.
Can you hear me?
I can, badly, yes. The audio is very, very clunky. I can start singing to the audience if it helps, but I don't think they'll like it.
So, for the technical side of it, let's not continue. You give me such of so notable. I'm afraid we have off just thank you so much for this is very interesting. Obviously, one of those people should absolutely chat to. Where should we find? Should it be or should it be somewhere else?
I'm guessing. I'm from the audio is very, very weak. I'm guessing. I think we'll wrap it up. If anyone wants to contact me through LinkedIn, find me, David Holland, on LinkedIn. Drop me a message, and I'll happily have a chat.
Fantastic. So the audio, but yeah, let's leave it then to audio.